women have been fighting for equal pay ever since the 1960s, and it hasn't been resolved. So this relates to female athletes and how they are underpaid versus how male athletes are paid way, way more. A lot of us here have watched sports or have played sports, and we know the hard work it takes in order to be good at a sport or even become professional. And so this goes into how female athletes have as much strenuous days and train as hard, and therefore should be paid equally as male athletes. This goes into how many only get paid about 25% what male athletes make playing the same sport. They have the same strenuous, hard days, and finally they have as many or even more achievements. So how much do female athletes actually make? So they only make about 25% of what male athletes make. And you can see on the chart right here, Sue Bird has as much experience, has as many championships as LeBron James, and so she makes about $200,000 a year, while LeBron James makes about $30 million a year. That's a huge difference in salary while having the same amount of experience and playing the same sport. So how do they cope with this, and how does it affect their living? Well, an example would be Jocelyn Davidson from the article of The View by Sean Gregory. There's an example of how she is a two-time Olympic silver medalist, and she plans on having a baby, but is scared to do so because she's afraid that that her pay will be even thinner, and then she won't have enough to support her family. So it's completely unfair how she works as hard as these male athletes and can't make enough in order to support her family. So what does it take to become a female athlete? Well, there's a big misconception that female athletes don't work as hard, or they can't train, or they're not as talented, which is completely untrue. From an article of the Athlete Network, there's a personal experience from Amanda Carroll. She states how there's a big misconception that female athletes aren't as athletically talented, but in reality they have to work 3 times as harder in order to get this recognition, yet they're still underpaid. So even though they have to go through all these obstacles, work 3 times harder, and have to train 3 times more, they are still underpaid. On the other hand, male athletes do get a lot more pay from endorsements or publicity and other sources. So as you can see, an example of this would be Cristiano Ronaldo as the face of Nike. But so an example from an article from the Insider article, it states how someone like LeBron James actually makes 61% of his earnings from endorsements, and so this is about $52 million. So a lot of his salary does come from endorsements. It's not all based on his training and the games he wins. Even though some female athletes do have these endorsements as well, male athletes are a lot more supported in this, and they have a lot more publicity from this, so it does give them an advantage. But this does not take away from the accomplishments that female athletes do have. So a lot of female athletes actually have a lot more accomplishments than male athletes, such as winnings. An example from this, from a UCLA women's law article, they actually state how the women's national soccer team has about 4 more World Cup wins than male athletes, and then they have 4 consecutive Olympic gold medals. So even with all these accomplishments, they're still underpaid. The men's soccer team have no wins, no World Cup wins, and yet are paid way, way more. Women only making about 25%. And so another quote from The article also states how a lot of these women athletes try to report to the U.S. Soccer Federation about what is happening, stating that they go through the same training, they have the same amount of travel conditions and having to go through all these strenuous days, yet they don't have equal pay. And so none of this has changed. They have all these accomplishments, yet they don't have the same recognition. And so what can we do to help this? Well, what we can do is this website right here, we can donate to that. It has a bunch of petitions, and it has a way we can donate and support these women, these female athletes. We can give them a lot more support than just pushing them to the side and forgetting that there are female athletes and they work as much as these male athletes. So overall, these female athletes try every single day and work every single day as much as male athletes, and always worry about their salary. They have to worry about if they can support their family, because they only make 25% of what males make, and they work as hard, have the same training days, and have more achievements, yet they're underpaid. Obviously, none of us here want to be underpaid for something we work hard for and something we're passionate about and have to leave because it doesn't support us. Children want to look up to these role models and follow their footsteps and know that they'll be paid the amount that they should be. So equal pay should start now. Thank you. Questions from the presentation?
Who's your favorite athlete and why?
So a female athlete would probably be Sue Bird. She's a pretty accomplished basketball player, but still doesn't get the recognition she deserves based on her gender.
And how do you think, not getting paid as much as men affects her?
Well, she
in
doesn't
her
get,
career.
Well, she doesn't get the recognition she deserves, and yet has the same amount of championships won. She gets paid 25%, and so she just has to fight against the odds that are against her.